Imagine walking down the street on a chilly winter day when you suddenly hear what sounds like a freight train. You turn to see a 25-foot wave rushing toward you, but it's not water, it's 2.3 million gallons of thick, sticky molasses, moving at 35 miles per hour. This isn't some weird dream, this actually happened in Boston in 1919, and yes, people died. How? Well, that's what we're diving into today. Hey, and welcome to Hoodie History, where I explore the fascinating and sometimes bizarre events of our past. I'm Michael, and today we're traveling back to Boston's North End on January 15, 1919, to witness one of America's strangest disasters, the Great Molasses Flood. You might be thinking, a molasses flood? That sounds more funny than tragic. But this sticky disaster killed 21 people, injured 150 more, and caused damage equivalent to millions of dollars today. Let's dive into how a sugary syrup became a deadly weapon. First off, you might be wondering, why was there enough molasses in one place to create a flood? Great question. In the early 1900s, molasses wasn't just something you put in your grandmother's cookies. It was industrial gold. It was essential for producing rum and other alcoholic beverages, and with World War I just ending, it had been in high demand for manufacturing munitions. Basically, molasses was big business. The Purity Distilling Company, owned by United States Industrial Alcohol, had built a massive tank in Boston's North End in 1915 to store this liquid gold. Picture this thing. 50 feet tall, 90 feet in diameter, holding up to 2.3 million gallons of molasses. That's enough to fill about 3.5 Olympic-sized swimming pools. But here's where things get concerning. This tank was built in a hurry. The company wanted to capitalize on the wartime demand, so corners were cut. There were no architects or engineers involved in its construction. The tank was never properly tested for structural integrity. Workers reported that it leaked so badly that neighborhood children would collect molasses in cups. The company's solution? Paint the tank brown so leaks wouldn't show. Talk about a sticky situation. Now for the scene. January 15, 1919. It's about noon in Boston's North End, a densely populated immigrant neighborhood. The weather is unusually warm for January, around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, following several days of extreme cold. Without warning, the massive tank ruptures with a sound that witnesses compared to a machine gun or a roaring elevated train. Some even thought a bomb had gone off, which wasn't a crazy assumption in 1919 with anarchist bombings occurring across the country. The tank's rivets pop like machine gun fire as 2.3 million gallons of molasses surges outward. The initial wave reaches 25 feet high and moves at approximately 35 miles per hour. That's faster than most people can run. The molasses tsunami engulfs everything in its path. Buildings are swept off their foundations. The Boston Elevated Railway's nearby support structure is knocked over. A truck is picked up and thrown into Boston Harbor. Horses are caught in the sticky tide and drown, unable to escape. One of the most heartbreaking stories is of the Clougherty family. Their home was picked up by the wave and crushed against another building. Martin Clougherty was thrown through a window, but survived. His sister Teresa was caught in the molasses and barely rescued. But their mother, Maria, was killed. At the nearby fire station, the building was damaged so severely that several firefighters were trapped inside. One of them, George Leahy, drowned in molasses despite his colleagues' desperate attempts to save him. As the wave spread out, it began to slow down but didn't become any less dangerous. Molasses isn't like water. It's thick, it's heavy, and it's incredibly difficult to escape from once you're caught in it, not unlike quicksand. Many victims weren't killed by the initial wave but suffocated in the sticky mass when they couldn't keep their heads above it. The total affected area covered about 2 blocks, roughly 300 by 500 feet, with molasses up to 3 feet deep in some places. Rescue efforts began immediately but were hampered by the nature of the disaster. Rescuers who tried to wade through the molasses found themselves stuck. The molasses quickly began to harden in the cold January air, trapping victims and making the rescue even more challenging. First responders, including Boston police, Red Cross workers, Navy personnel from a nearby vessel, and local residents. They worked for 4 days straight, searching for survivors and then bodies in the brown, sticky mess. The search was finally called off on January 19, with a final death toll of 21. Of the dead, 10 were workers at the site, with the rest being local residents, including 2 10-year-old children. But even after the immediate disaster passed, the cleanup had just begun. And let me tell you, cleaning up 2.3 million gallons of molasses is not a simple task. Salt water was pumped from the harbour to wash away the molasses. Sand was spread to absorb what remained. Workers used salt and sodium carbonate to try to thin the molasses for easier removal. The entire cleanup effort took weeks, with Boston Harbour remaining brown until summer. And the smell? Residents reported the sweet scent of molasses hung over Boston for months. Some locals swear that on hot summer days you can still smell molasses in the North End when the conditions are just right. Following the disaster, 119 separate lawsuits were filed against United States Industrial Alcohol. The legal proceedings took 6 years to complete, with over 3,000 pages of testimony. Initially, the company tried to avoid blame entirely. Their first defense? Claiming anarchists had bombed the tank. This was during the first Red Scare, and blaming radicals seemed convenient. When no evidence of bombing surfaced, they pivoted to arguing the tank was structurally sound and must have been sabotaged. But the evidence told a different story. Witnesses testified about the leaks. Workers described how the tank would groan and creak when filled. An inquiry revealed that no engineering oversight had been provided during construction, and the tank had never been properly tested before being filled. In the end, the court found United States Industrial Alcohol responsible. The company was ordered to pay damages equivalent to about $15 million in today's money, though of course no amount could bring back those who died. The molasses flood actually led to stricter building codes and regulations across Massachusetts. For once, lawmakers realized that maybe, just maybe, we should have engineers sign off on huge industrial structures before they're put into use. The Great Molasses Flood may sound like something from a children's book, but it was a very real disaster that changed the lives of many Bostonians and ultimately improved safety standards for everyone else. Next time you drizzle molasses on your pancakes or mix it into your barbecue sauce, take a moment to remember the bizarre tragedy that unfolded in Boston over a century ago. It's a sticky reminder that natural disasters aren't the only ones we need to prepare for. Sometimes human negligence can turn even the most innocent substances deadly. What aspect of the Great Molasses Flood surprised you the most? The speed of the molasses wave? The number of casualties? Or maybe the fact that the company tried to blame anarchists? Let me know in the comments. If you found this historical oddity interesting, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss more fascinating stories from the past here on Hoodie History. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep your curiosity flowing freely, just not like molasses through city streets.